Okay, I see the icons are starting to number up. Hello, everyone. How y'all doing? Well, today is the last day of February, the 28th of February, 2023. Hard to believe. Boy, things are just flying past. And so much is happening that we can't keep up with it. And as I have pointed out, they don't want you to keep up with it. Every time you start to look at something and try to understand what's happening so that you can protect yourself and your family, they change the script to something else. The media is involved, the intelligence community uses the media. When I say the intelligence community, I mean the Department of Defense as well, the Department of State, all the things that they're doing, the disasters we've been having, one food processing center going up, another, metal factories, train derailments, which, by the way, happen quite often. But because our infrastructure is so bad, we're sending all the money to the Ukraine. We're not fixing our railway infrastructure. But I think there's something more on that than just the fact that the infrastructure is bad. I think there is sabotage going on. We're at war now, and the primary enemy that we have sits in D.C., I'm afraid. They're fomenting all of this from there and from London primarily. And you know that's how I've talked about this for a long time. So I'm not going to get into all those particulars this evening. You know I like to come on Tuesdays and Thursdays if I can possibly do it. And believe it or not, I've got a couple of grandkids over right now, so I'm cooking them dinner. And their parents are out doing some things. So my daughter and my daughters and their husbands. So I'm babysitting. So uh, I can't last long on here tonight. I'm going to have to get to the points, and maybe we'll hit a few chats. Notice I'm not taking a call in, so we'll just work from the chat. But before we get there, I want to expand on something that I did on Twitter here about an hour ago. If you have been watching things, Alensky, I'm going to take the Z out like Alex Christoforou does because the Z is not supposed to be used in his name, I guess now. I'd go ahead and use it, but I have another reason for doing that. The president of Ukraine, of course, he is now saying, of course, he keeps coming back with his hand out with his hat open saying, more money, more money. He's got something on Biden and government officials as well. And I think people in our own administration are using Ukraine to blackmail people as well. But regardless, he keeps coming back for money. We keep sending him all that. And like I just said, our country is falling apart. And your people in D.C. don't care. Oh, there might be a handful that do, but nobody else. As a matter of fact, the sooner you get destroyed, the better from the way things are going. People are even coming out now and saying how evil the FBI is, that it's a criminal syndicate. Gee, I've been saying that for at least 3 decades, especially in the last 2. But at any rate, they've tried for many, many years to make men and women equal. You know, this is my gig right now. This is where I got to stick up a place where the sun don't shine, right? And I've been fighting against this thing as best as I can to prevent them from abusing our women. But you know what? A lot of women want it. And I don't mean by spousal abuse or things like that. I mean being told that you women don't need to do what you were created to do, that you can do what men do, that's okay. As a matter of fact, that's what you need to do. And there are all kinds of people that talk about the fact that when women do that, they reach their wall and then they realize they gave up something that they really want for their career or whatever. I'm not going to argue all that. The ERA, women's lib, all that stuff. I'm not going to argue that. But what I will say is this. Zelensky is now saying that your sons and your daughters, our American men and women, need to fight and die for Ukraine. Have you been listening to this, or is the MSM hiding it from you? And you know what? Our people over here are doing all they can to accommodate him in that request. They are emptying out Ukraine with this war. I'm not even talking about who's at blame right now. I'm not even talking about that. But they're emptying it out. They've had plenty of time to make concessions, to make negotiations, and they've not done it. They want to empty out this land right here. And we could discuss why, but I'm not even going to do that today. My point is they want to use, eventually, they're taking their women now too. Their men and their women, their sons and their daughters. They're even taking children. What nation deserves to be protected, to be defended, that will sacrifice its children and its women? No nation is worth that. Especially when they've abrogated all their true principles that they were supposed to be defending in the first place, and then they become the very enemy that they claim that they were against. So if you haven't seen the clip where Zelensky's saying basically that American men and women need to fight and die, you're really missing something. Because there are people in our country that want it to go that way as well. So, Tulsi Gabbard has this big story where, you know, she was raised Democrat and, you know, Hindu, and then went to other religions, and then went in the army. She has her family history is very interesting. I'm not even here to go over that. There's some ties to Marxism, communism. There's some. I'm not saying necessarily with her, although she's been out there with Democrats, the Students for a Democratic Society, and things like that. But I'm not even going there. Where I'm going is here. Tulsi Gabbard had an interview with Jordan Peterson. It's in the description box below. This was about 2 weeks ago. And the subject of women in the military came up. And she was very expert in the way she went through that. Her response was, well, whoever can do the job is who I want there to protect me. That's her talking. As a soldier, oh, she's proud of being a soldier, leading all these women down this road, which is what she's about now. I finally figured out why she's being allowed to speak the way she is. She is the poster child to get women to say, well, Tulsi Gabbard's a conservative girl now, conservative woman. You know, she's in the military, she's a lieutenant colonel. She says women can do it, they should do it. Go listen to the interview. It's very subtle the way she goes through. She says, I think that whoever's best for the job should do it. Ladies and gentlemen, they've been twisting and confusing the male-female relationship now for a very long time. And I don't need to stand here and tell you about that. I mentioned the ERA a few minutes ago, but it's even worse than that. Men becoming women, women becoming men. You know the whole story. Teaching kids, you know, oh, you're not really what you think you are. You're really something else. Or if you have some thought that maybe, you know, I'm not sure what I am, we'll help you. We'll make the decision for you, not your parents. Are you reading me, ladies and gentlemen? And do I think that my complaining here is going to make a goddamn bit of difference? No, but I know if I don't say it, I'll regret it. So, on Twitter, I made a response to Tulsi Gabbard's interview with Jordan Peterson. And sometimes I really wonder about Jordan Peterson. He's a great guy philosophically, you know, telling people how to order their lives and stuff like that. And then he's talking about we need to support Ukraine. I think he needs to stay in the realm of psychology, because he doesn't know a damn thing apparently about geopolitics. So at any rate, I saw this and my gut just froze up, because I knew what Zelensky has already said. I know that they put forward in the national defense authorizations for several years trying to put in there to draft women, to conscript women, not just men. I don't even like women volunteering for the service. Okay? You call me sexist, that's fine. That's where I stand. Because as I said a few minutes ago, if a nation's not willing to defend its women and its children, it's not worth defending. And we've given up all of our values practically. We spout the Constitution and we do as much as we can to violate it, including the Bill of Rights. So what are we protecting anymore? How are we any different from the rest of this God-forsaken world? that we point the fingers at. We're very good at doing bipolar projection, blaming others for what we do. So Tulsi Gabbard talks about men and women that she served with that sacrificed everything, including their lives, for what, Tulsi? You're out there right now talking about how evil this government is and what it's doing, and you are going to tell these women, men too, that they will be appreciated for their sacrifice to this country that slit their throats and taken the carpet out from underneath their feet? You are the great example of the woman warrior, which is a lie. It's never been that way in history and never will. Oh, there are exceptions. If you have some brawny woman that wants to go and do it and she can do it, fine. But don't you force our daughters to do it, God damn you, Tulsi. And you're talking very subtly to make that happen. So, I finally figured out that that's why they're allowing you to speak. You are the poster child to get women into the services, but particularly into the draft, into the selective service. Very subtle. You've told us everything we wanted to hear. The conservatives, right? People that want freedom and liberty, all that, and believe in God and be able to do all that, speak freely and carry your AR-15 or whatever. You've been very good, Tulsi. So you've told those 99 truths so that you can slip in. I think women should be the ones out there because if they can do the job, they should do it. No, you're not trying to honor the men and women who have made sacrifices. That's not what you're doing. You're trying to lead the way subtly that women need to be involved and conscripted. That's where you're going, Tulsi. So, I made a response to her on Twitter. Not necessarily to her, but just anybody who might see this thing from Jordan Peterson's interview. And it's in the description box below, as I just said, the interview. And it's on the community post. I even posted it on my community posts on this channel above. You can go look at it if you like. But I'm going to read it to you right now. So, she says, anybody who can do the job, because I want people there that are able to do the job. Maybe some women can't do it, maybe some men, but the women that can do it and the men that can't do it need to do it. Okay? You realize, Tulsi, how, and you should, how the DOD has changed the standards for women so that they can pass and not even, they can't even pick up their weight. But because the standards have been changed to get women in there, get them in, we're going to give you money for your education. We're going to give you a sign-up bonus. You're going to have VA benefits to go to school. We'll help you fund your new job. Whatever promise they make, they never tell you you might get your body blown to bits. It's a sales pitch that's demonic, devilish. So this is what I said. You can read it in the community posts or on my Twitter account. This is what I said. Perhaps this is this thing about whoever can do the job, women included. Perhaps this is the real reason Tulsi Gabbard is being allowed to speak out, to pretend that she supports all these other things so that people will say when she says that women ought to do it, oh yeah, we agree with her. You get people to nod there. I used to be a salesman. My wife told me how to sell. You know what? When you shake your head to a group of people about how good something is, they start doing the same thing. It becomes a herd mentality. She's very good at it. Let me start over. Perhaps this is the real reason Tulsi Gabbard is being allowed to speak out. Why do I say that? Because what she's doing, I'm surprised she hasn't been called in and disciplined under the Uniform Code of Military Justice because of the things that she said, principally against President Biden. Now, do I like President Biden? No. And I appreciate the fact that she's speaking out. But my question is why, and why hasn't she been disciplined for what she has said? Oh, because she's a congresswoman too? That doesn't matter. She's not one now. Again, I like what she says, but why is she being allowed to get away with it? Because she's going to convince people that women should be conscripted, that they should do the job as well. She'll do it subtly, but that's what she is up to. So again, let me start again. Perhaps this is the real reason Tulsi Gabbard is being allowed to speak out. 99 truths to get in that one evil. I have warned that the powers that be want your daughters in war to be ruined in a number of ways, which I've seen personally, maimed, and slaughtered. Tulsi is that poster child for the big sell. America has no moral values left to defend. And if you think it does, you're really mistaken. Look what they're doing. Sorry, I keep interrupting, but I've got to say this too. Do you realize that the DOD now says that all these other genders, or those who think that they're whatever else, they can go into the other genders' bathrooms, bunking areas, barracks. They're tearing the walls down to destroy the man-woman relationship, and in the end, mankind. Go back to the beginning of this one. America has no moral values to defend, no pursuit of life, liberty, or happiness, but only government control. The next step is to conscript your daughters. They have taken away everything worth defending. And now, our women. When a nation stoops to no longer protecting their women, it is not worth defending. I realize I'm not going to be able to alter this course. The other day, I quoted from someone who said that you're not supposed, that you are bearing burdens that your shoulders were never meant to bear. And yet, for decades now, I can't sit by my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. The deceptions are so wide and deep that we all need to get back to our core of what we are. And if you don't know, you need to find out the truth of it, not what they put out on CNN, at Harvard, at the universities, at the high schools, the junior high schools, the elementary schools, even most of the churches. Entertainment. You see how these women fight men? Like, really? Really? It's all conditioning. So again, if Tulsi Gabbard has been out there talking about how bad the country is, how bad off it is, it's the government's denial of our rights, the problems with the food supply, the problems with all these derailments, all these things are going, the climate change scenarios, and you're there shaking your head. Yeah, Yeah, that's right, that's right. And there's some talk that she might run with Trump. Boy, wouldn't that be a joke? I don't know if that's serious or not, but everybody's there going. I've given her the floor for a long time. I've said, look, I'm going to give her a chance. It looks like she's taking on the government, the WEF to some extent, because there was a big controversy there whether she was a part of it or not. And I said she needs to come out against it. She kind of did, but she never explained why she was on the Young Global Leaders website still, or why when she saw it back in 2015 she didn't insist that it be taken off. And she has ties to the CFR. But I was willing to give her a chance. But like this damn war in Ukraine that doesn't make any damn sense from either side, really. I understand why the Russians are doing what they're doing. But there was just something I couldn't put my finger on. What in the hell is she up to? And that's it. If Tulsi can do it, my daughter can do it. If Tulsi, a young woman sitting there in the flower of her life when she should be having children, getting married because she's got a short window. Plus she should be a feminine creature. And I know that that's been destroyed primarily in the Western democracies. I know that. I've seen it. But we've got to return to that. But these young women will see her and say, if Tulsi can do it, I can do it. And they have no idea what they're getting into. They hear the carrot, the monetary rewards, the education, the VA benefits. I tell you what you ought to do, young ladies, before you decide, because first it's going to be like it has been, volunteering. And I know a lot of young women that have done this, volunteered. Before you go any further, you go into a hospital where they're treating the wounds of war. Because it's not like it is on TV or in the movies. Some of that approximates it. But you go into those places where arms, legs, eyes, lower jaws, tops of the head, whole shoulders blown off, both legs, no genitals, no female form. And then you decide from there if you want to join up. But this is what I'm going to say. If they try to conscript your daughters, you people better fight like hell. I guess there's no sense in me going through the chat. Back in 1978, may have been 77, I was on an Army training exercise where I was the convoy commander for, I think it was like 1,200 vehicles. And I went into a local. We stopped at an Air Force base to refuel and some other things. And I walked into the service area there, and they had a newspaper machine where you could put your 25 cents in and get a newspaper out. And I don't remember what newspaper it was. I think it was USA Today. But even then, they were talking about how great women can serve in the military, prepping the American people for this horror. And it said in there, women should be conscripted for equality purposes. See what you've been walked into? And I saw that, and from that very day on, I've been speaking out about it. My unit was one of the first ones that got women into it. It wasn't a combat unit, it was a combat support unit. But and they had already been into some combat service support units, logistics, stuff like that. But I'm going to tell you, I don't give a damn what those people in DOD or the politicians say, or even the women themselves like Tulsi Gabbard. Bad things happen. I've told the story, I think, where I was in a strategic Army Force unit, and we had to be at Redcon 1 at all times. We had, I think it was inspections twice a year to guarantee we were at Redcon 1, and I think, if I recall correctly, we had several unannounced inspections and drills. It's been quite a while ago. Well, just as one of the problems that occurred, almost all the women got pregnant. Almost every one of them. Not to mention the fact that they couldn't crawl through the grass and the ditches and the mud as well as the men could. I'm just talking about this one issue. Well, under the Army regulations, if you have a pregnant woman soldier, you can't count her as being part. You can't say you're at Redcon 1 if you have a certain percentage of those that can't do their duties. I was with the females taken out of the count. I was at Redcon 2, not Redcon 1. I didn't just put down Redcon 1 so that I would look good. I put down Redcon 2, and I gave the reasons why. Well, that was the wrong thing to do. I got called down to the battalion commander's office and ordered to reverse those numbers so that I would be at Redcon 1. Because we don't want to hurt the idea of women serving. My mom, I've told this story before, she hadn't had any children. My dad and her got married in 1938. Couldn't have kids for some reason. I shouldn't even be here, actually. If I told you the story, you'd say, what? But I'm not even supposed to be here. Anyway, they couldn't have kids, so Dad joined the Marines and Mom joined the Army, the Women's Army Corps. She had worked in the War Department. She knew Eisenhower. She knew Arnold. Eisenhower was a major at the time. General Arnold, Patton. She knew all those people. She had a really good education, and she decided to go to OCS. So she became an officer in the Women's Army Corps. She became Eisenhower's financial officer in Britain during the war, right in London. She didn't really know what she was getting into. I could tell you some stories. But one of the things she told me was this, and I mentioned this probably about 4 or 5 years ago. She was instrumental in convincing some young women to enter into the Women's Army Corps. And in various circumstances, including bombings, V2 attacks, whatever, she said she saw those women horribly killed. And she felt guilty that she had told them to leave their families, the hopes of children, the comforts of home, and go to a foreign nation and get their bodies blown to bits. She never recovered from that, my mom. She regretted it the rest of her life. So I know of what I speak. I don't give a goddamn what these women in the military who are trying to push women in, or think that they have a right to be there. A woman going into the military is setting an example, and it's not a good one, ladies. I don't give a damn what you think. You're setting the example that women should be doing a job that only men should do. Throw me off YouTube as a sexist if you want. I am not going to go down this road without saying how evil this is. So Tulsi's the great example of a woman warrior. Oh, we can do it. We can do it. Oh, she's in good shape. She works out and all that. I'm going to take a line from Jurassic Park, from one of the scientists there. It's not if we could do it. We should have asked ourselves if we should do it. I'll end on this. I meant to say it when I was on the live stream with my son Jeremy, and I apologize if some people thought that I was interrupting too much, but there were reasons why I was doing that. I was actually doing an investigation at the same time, and I'll just leave it at that. Plus, you know, it's kind of hard to see people attack your son. He can stand on his own, but you know, I don't take kindly to that. Not when we're up there, you know, trying to make a case, trying to teach something. Maybe I should have turned the chat off but I couldn't because of what I was doing. I was looking for a specific individual. I'll tell you that right now. I think I found them. Someone who's caused some trouble. But regardless of that, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to read the rest of his or hear the rest of his story about the castle and the leader with the sword, you can go to his channel, his YouTube channel. It's in the last video in the description box, not this one, the one where I'm doing the live stream with him. But anyway, during that, I knew some people would wonder about my beard. Where'd your beard go, Roy? Well, so I'll tell you a little story that happened. So it was doing really good there. I think you could tell it was starting to come in and fill in. But I could tell I needed to trim it a little bit. So I got in there and I was trimming this side and went, whoops, I went too far. So I can balance it out. I'll just trim it. Whoops, I went too far again. Well, this thing worked up until finally I realized I got to cut it off and start all over again. So that's where we are. I'm starting all over again. You tried to watch it for hours and came back dated, and I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe, you know, there are a lot of crazy things going on YouTube and Twitter and even Rumble these days. So I'll just leave it at that. Okay, I gotta go finish the dinner up for the kiddos, but I wanted to come on here and at least talk to you about that. Zelensky's setting the stage, and we're giving him everything he asks for. Do you realize that? Oh, the weapons are a little slow, right? Supposedly, but that money's flowing like, you know, water. We're even paying the wages and the pensions of the Ukrainian government workers, and yet our own vets can't get medical attention, and they tell them that they can't have their benefits, and nobody will fix it. The NDAA should never have been, and I knew it would be, but it should never have been passed. I'm going to go. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground, situational awareness on high. Prep, pray, stay out of the way.